live chat at Anderson and Boback.
And we're here to talk to you about some interesting topics that we think might be of interest to you during these times. I think one of the things that I'd like to start talking about, just to start off, is how to avoid confrontation with your loved ones and the people that you're quarantined with while you're sheltering in place. I saw recently that there's this family, it's been like a viral video that these kids and the dad have started this prank with each other where the kids, every time they say dinosaur, the dad turns into a dinosaur and he just destroys whatever is in front of him. And you can hear the wife in the background yelling, no, girls, not again. And there's one where he like rips the garbage bags open. And I'm watching this and I'm cracking up. But I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, I hope by the time that this is over that they're not calling our office. Because it's so easy.
Yeah, I've noticed there's a lot of people putting videos. There's a lot of families doing this. I saw this morning, there's a lady who puts on a different Halloween costume every morning and goes outside in her front yard. Families are getting used to it. So yeah, I mean, people are finding ways to adjust to this home provision, the stay-at-home order, and I think it's going to change all of us. There's going to be some good things that come out of it, and I think one of the things you want to make sure to do is to avoid confrontation when you're stuck in a shelter in place. Any suggestions on that, Jessica?
I'm sorry, to avoid confrontation, you said?
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's just a level of patience that has to be had, and sometimes you just have to step away. Maybe it's taking a walk or getting daily exercise in. Perhaps it's baking, stress baking. I know I've been doing a lot of that, but just making sure that you carve out some time for yourself to step away and do something that you enjoy and decompress, because everybody being in the same place, it can be really tiring. And it goes for people that are sheltering in place by themselves too. The stress of working from home and balancing everything. You got to make time for yourself, because otherwise you'll just get frustrated. Jen, what have you been doing? Or what have you seen?
Well, hopefully people are doing that. Hopefully they are spending a little bit of time for themselves. And what I've seen is in an attempt to avoid confrontation or to not to have, any excessive problems at home, is maybe it's not the time to talk about some sensitive subjects. Maybe it is time, a place in the house that where you can get away, or where you could spend a little time on yourself. And hey, you've had a lot of time now. Maybe it's that self-awareness of a new hobby. We are so fortunate to have the web, the internet service, Amazon, deliver things that you need. There's opportunity there to take advantage of some things like for your self-awareness or a new hobby, or finding a quiet space. But above all, I think now is not really the time to talk about topics that might be a little confrontational. One of the things we wanted to talk about today was the stimulus. The stimulus check is on a lot of people's minds. We've gotten motions about that in our practice. We've gotten a lot of calls about that. What do you know about the status of the stimulus checks?
Well, I see that a lot of people are starting to receive their funds. There's some people who haven't yet, but for the most part, if you're having an electronic deposit, a lot of people have started to receive those. And I'm seeing a lot of, what's beginning to become arguing over the stimulus check from people who maybe are separated but filed taxes jointly. I've seen a lot of people where they're discovering that they may have filed their taxes incorrectly. I've been in a lot of groups on Facebook and on social media platforms where there's a lot of working parents, and some of them have said, I have 2 children that are within the age of where I'm supposed to get a $500 credit, but I only received one of the $500 credits and not the other. And apparently there's something with TurboTax specifically where if you list a child as an other dependent, like if you list one as a child and you check the box for an other dependent, which a lot of people may do, the government doesn't realize you're claiming 2 children. So we can't give tax advice, but it's my understanding from tax professionals that if that happened to you, you may want to amend your last tax filing as well, because you may not have gotten all of the credits you're entitled to for a child. And I've heard that they're not going to send you the additional money right now, but they'll deal with it when you do your 2020 tax filing as far as the stimulus money. So that's an interesting issue that I've seen arise a couple of times. Jan,
Yeah.
what have you been seeing?
Well, what we saw was people who filed jointly for 2018 since then have been divorced and no longer live together. But of course, government, and if they haven't yet filed for their 2018 tax returns, the government is looking at their 2018 tax filing, and they're basing that filing on the amount and the number for the dependents, and of course, also getting deposited to whatever account was listed on your tax return. So,
Yep.
it could be a couple things. Maybe that account doesn't exist anymore. I know we've all seen that on the news. Or what if an account belongs to one person and not the other? So we've seen motions being filed. Hey, when one person gets it, we need to hold it and decide what to do with it. I don't know how cost effective it is to litigate about it. Hopefully people are able to work together and kind of decide what to do with that. But it's my understanding those checks are out and a lot of people have been receiving their funding.
Yeah. I think some of the paper ones I read were going to be delayed a little bit, but if you're getting electronic funding, you should be able to get it or should have had it already. And I think we have a question. Let's see. The question is,
what happens if I didn't file my tax last year?
there we go.
You didn't file your taxes last year and you want a stimulus check, I would suggest you hurry up and file this. Because if they don't have last year's to go on, they're going to go on the most recent one. So if you file your taxes for this year, then at least the government would have something to go off. Make sure they have a bank account. There's also, I heard, a website where you can go on and register. Say you don't have income for tax purposes or change your bank account or address. I believe there is a website out there for you to provide the federal government with this information.
I think you're right. And I had heard that there's a way to change your bank account information too. Like you had said, if you don't have an account anymore and you want to use a different one, I don't know if it's too late now in terms of the electronic deposits, but I had heard that you were able to reroute the money into a different account if needed.
Yeah, and so if you have two kids and you each claimed a child, you would each get the $100 as long as that child is, I believe, the age of 16. But what if a person claimed 2 one year and the next person's claiming 2 the next year? One person gets, do you think that the federal government is taking any into consideration, or is it just a blanket? If you claim kids, you're getting money for kids.
I think it's just based on whoever claimed it. I don't know for sure, but I think that that's probably too much thinking for the government to have to do with all of the work that they have on their plate with all of this, to sit and say, oh, well, this child was claimed by somebody else the year before, let's give them $500. So I think it's really going to be up to the folks that are receiving the money to figure out if it needs to be divided. And then ultimately, if it's a larger sum and they can't agree, then I'm sure we're going to see an influx in motions on it. And the courts will have to be the ones to figure out what's going to happen with it. And you know what else was interesting to me? I don't know why, but if you it makes sense, but some people weren't realizing apparently that if they have 2 children currently, but they only had 1 child when they filed, the government didn't get your baby announcement. They're not going to send you the $500 for the child that wasn't born when you filed your taxes last. So there's, I don't know if that's something that's going to be addressed in 2020 taxes because it's a child under 17, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, that's a situation where when this announcement was made that this would happen, you hurry up and you file your 2019 tax returns. Now that we have the ability to file online and electronic, things go through pretty quickly. I've also been hearing stories of people whose financial situations really haven't changed during this pandemic. They're still going to work, they're still earning their income, but they too are receiving these sums of money, these stimulus checks. And then there's people who could use 2 or 3 stimulus checks. Do you think that it's going to continue?
I think it really depends on how long it takes for the country to really open back up. I think that you raise a great point. You know, everyone keeps saying we're all in this together, but everybody's situation is so drastically different. And the people that do have income coming in may not have as much need for a stimulus check at this time. And the people who are chronically unemployed and are not essential and are unable to get paid, who are been furloughed and all of that, they could use more money. I know that I've seen in the news with like the Paycheck Protection Act that they're trying to get more funding for that. So I think if this does go on for a long period of time, we may see another round of checks, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. So I have a feeling that if that does happen, it's going to be a reduction some way, somehow from a future tax return filing or something. Because, you know, I don't know how long the government can sustain giving everybody money for this. You know, what do you think, Jan?
Well, I have heard that it's going to happen again. Heard that there's going to have to be more payout. You know, $1,200 in some situations is, you know, is just not, is not enough. And even when we start to open back up, if you the governor's plan and how things are going to open up in waves, some people who are in the bars and the restaurants, or, you know, doing certain kinds of jobs and works there, it's going to take a while, or maybe there doesn't even exist anymore. And I know unemployment, it's my understanding that those who are receiving unemployment are getting an extra $600 each week in their paycheck, and that's going to be consistent and ongoing. So I think the stimulus check is something else that we're going to see. It's going to be revisited. It's going to be revisited again. There's a question that what happens, or have all the stimulus checks been distributed? And as Jessica said, I think electronic, most of them are out, but if we're getting a paper check, I don't think those have been, I know they've been signed by our president. My understanding, that's been on the news lately, that he has he signed them all. His signature is going to appear, but I don't know if they're in the mail, and if they are in the mail, it's going to be over a period of time. But do you know if they're in the, how long that will take?
I haven't read anything about a time frame. I think I saw in the news they were estimating some of them could be delayed as long as June, which I find hard to believe. I mean, even if they're mailing them, I can't believe it would take that long, but that was something that had been reported. Give it, you know, the weight that it deserves.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just can't.
Somebody has also asked, do you only check if you have children? Can you address that?
Do you only get the check if you what? Sorry, cut out. If you have children?
Yeah.
No. So it's based on your income. I believe for a single filer, if your last tax return showed that you earned, I think it was $75,000 or less, you would get up to $1,200. And then for joint filers, I think it was something like under 150, but no more than like 199. It's on a sliding scale, and I think it was 2,400 was the maximum you could get. But then in addition to those sums, if you have children that are under the age of 17, I believe it was, it's $500 per child in addition to the 1,200 or the 2,400. So there's a phase out.
So the stimulus check, just for those who have the children, this check was for all American citizens with a social security number and the ability to work, but it's, well, not necessarily the ability to work. I know there's unemployed people or people on social security disability who are also eligible, but it was for everyone. And the child portion was just an addition. It wasn't because you have children. It was just an addition. Okay.
Yep. That's correct.
How are judges in Cook County handling these stimulus checks? Do you have any idea if there's been a motion filed? Or let's say we get a call and say, hey, he's got my stimulus check, or she's got my stimulus check. Is it worth filing a motion?
Well, I think it depends on how much it is, because if it's, you know, $1,000, by the time you file the motion and get your day in court, you're using a lot of it to get that money. But sometimes it's just the principal that, you know, the principal is an expensive thing. I have seen judges on a preliminary basis find that the issue warrants an urgent hearing, that it should be set over for a hearing quickly to make sure that the funds aren't depleted. I don't know that every judge would find it to be an emergency issue, because money typically is not an emergency in my experience, but I think that they're open to entertaining it. And it really just depends on who your judge is and the posture of your case. That's what I think. What do you think, Jan?
Yeah, usually not an emergency. I think we all experience that in our work in the courthouse, but in the last 6 weeks, it's an emergent situation. You look at the banks and you look at the people who just have a huge need to get their bill paid and just to provide. So maybe because of this, finances will become more urgent, particularly during this time.
Yeah, it always depends, right?
Always
just depends.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So looks like we have another question about child support. So I don't see a specific ask, but I can generally just say, child support should continue to be paid as long as there's an order in place for it. So if you have an order that's not being complied with, that might be something to talk to an attorney about. And let's see, it looks like, Jen, can you read the other question that came through?
You can't pay your child support, and we've addressed it, and it's a really important question because it's an important issue right now. If you cannot pay child support, to file a motion with the court, and it doesn't have to be emergent, it doesn't have to be something that has to be taken care of right away because we are on a different schedule with the court, but you need to file a motion and tell the court why you cannot pay your child support. And this is important to get on file because any relief that you ask for very well go back to the date of filing. So you don't want to wait 6 weeks or 7 weeks, or you don't want to wait. You want to get it on file as soon as you can. Everything is filed electronically now. So again, going back to our benefits of having technology, we can file motions now without going to the courthouse. So my advice to anybody who's having trouble paying child support is you might want to get that on file. Talk to your attorney, call somebody for advice, or get something on file. The other question was, I think my spouse got more than I did, and it's unfair because the children are with me. What could you do? And like we talked about earlier, it depends on what your filing was in 2018 of how that gets distributed. So what would you suggest to somebody who maybe somebody got more than they should have? How would you address that?
Well, I think that it may be something that you would want to file a motion on. If you try talking to each other and can't agree, then the only way you're going to get any relief on it is if you file a motion. That's really your only option if there's no agreement. But I think it really should, if the kids are spending more time with one parent and there's a greater need for the extra money, for extra groceries, for extra this, for extra that, it's a consideration. It's a factor. It's something that the court would look at when deciding how to divide the money. And it's really unprecedented, right? I mean, there's no case on what to do with a stimulus check because we haven't had them any time in recent history. And so defining it as income or a stimulus or whatever it may be is something that we're going to have to look to the court for guidance on. We don't know what they'll do with it.
There's no roadmap for the stimulus check at this point. There's no roadmap for shelters in place, and there's really no roadmap for what's going on. So things are flux, but our court system has put in place some really good rules and some really good procedures so that anybody who needs access can certainly gain access to the judges of this county and other counties. So if you have any other questions about the stimulus check or family law issues or what's going on or what might happen, give us a call at Anderson and Boback. I see one more question popped up that said, how much longer do you think this order is going to go? Jessica, I know you heard something recently, or, governor's going to talk about that this week, right? But I haven't heard when.
Yeah, I haven't heard exactly when either. And, all I can really speak to on this is my personal feelings on it. I think that we're probably going to have a hard time reopening everything when schools are closed. I mean, that's a huge conundrum for working parents about what they're going to do with their kids if all of a sudden they have to go back to work and you're dealing with childcare. So sorry about my assistant in the background. I think that it may go on longer, but I think that since schools are closed for the rest of the year in Illinois, we may see it through Memorial Day. That's my projection. And I know that in Cook County, there have been some rumblings that the court closure, the physical court closure, not the electronic, right now is slated for May 18th for a reopening date. I've heard that may get extended too, unfortunately. Have you heard anything?
My feeling is that Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, some of the central states are going to kind of do things in unison in the Midwest. And I know Wisconsin announced that they're going to stay, the shelter at home place is going to stay in place Memorial Day. And it's my hunch that we are also going to be under a stay-at-home order through Memorial Day. It is also my hunch that the courthouse will not open right after that. Maybe not soon after that. We have such good processes in place. I think it'll be limited, and it's going to be limited for a while. I know they're worried about not only getting on the downward slope, but also they don't want to have a resurgence of a virus. So I don't know. We don't know. Time will tell. But we would just encourage you to make the best out of this situation and take advantage of the good things that we do have, and know if we can help. Jessica, it's been good talking to you. Thank you for joining us live on our Facebook. We really enjoyed talking with you, and we'll see you next week on Talk Tuesday when Jessica, what is our topic going to be?
You know what? I don't remember. Do you know what our topic is?
What would you like it to be? Tell us what you'd like our topic to be, and we'll talk to you then.
We'd love to see your comments about what you'd like to hear about, and hopefully Kim will be able to join us. I know that there was a little bit of a technical glitch, but we'll get her on here too, because she's always a fun one to talk to live.
Last week had a technical glitch. This week it was lesser of a technical glitch, so hope next week we won't have one.
We are working our way up.
Yeah, talk to you then. Bye.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.